What is it? Stop doing that. And you have to ring it like that. Don't you have any manners? Just hold your horses. I'll be there in a second. Oh, goodness grief. Hey man, if you ever ring my door again like this, I'm going to set my dogs on you, huh? Christ, these guys have no social skills whatsoever. Ta-da! And this smells of rainforest. Humidity. Yeah. This comes directly from Japan. Again, I did a really nice purchase. My good friend Mr. Knife. I'll just put the link here so you can see I spent on this lens the whopping fee of 90 cents. Yeah, 0.90 euro cents. So let's open this. Coming from Takikawa. I'm pretty sure that's where my Takihara camera was born. Now, one thing I know I'll find inside, which is going to be bubble wrap. My trustworthy friend, Mr. Bubble Wrap. Bubble wrap. What did I tell you? Anything else? Well, for 90 cents, I cannot ask too much, can I? This is supposed to be a zoom lens, one of the unfamous zoom lens that people always say. Again, this is brand new. This shines. This was literally never used. There's just some small, very tiny little dents here. That's just it. I mean, that's the only thing there is. This is absolutely brand new. So, what do I have here? A zoom lens with a very bad reputation. This is one of the first zoom lenses. So as, I don't know if you remember, a few weeks ago I did a review on this lens, which is now on my Nikon F2, which is the 43-86, and then this came out in the later part of the 70s. This, my dear friends, is a Series E, which already tells that it's plastic. 36-72 f3.5. Push, pull, okay, that's to expect. So the bad thing about these push-pull lenses is that when you push-pull, you feel a breeze coming out from this part here. In analog terms, this doesn't mean much, because if you have dust accumulated here and then you put it inside the lens and then she gets blown out, it goes to the film. When the film advances, it goes away. If you have a digital camera, if you blow this to your sensor, it gets stuck to your sensor, and then you need to go to a professional service to have it clean, and this is costly. If you go to Nikon, it's around 150 euros. If you go to a friend of yours, it's like 25 to 30 euros and he vacuums this thing out. But anyway, it's still money. So this for a digital camera, you could probably avoid it. I've never used this lens. I'm going to use it for the first time. Well, I never used this one as well, and I used it the 43-86. And this to me was perfectly fine lens, a perfectly nice zoom lens for its time. It's not nice according to today's standards, but back then this is good, and this is able to take really good, nice photos as long as the person behind the lens knows what she's doing. And I wouldn't be surprised if this one would have much more bad reputation that it actually does deserve. But let's go and let's start a review on this little lens.
What? Again? I'm going to show you, you mailman, you... oh God, I'm going... No, but you end up, what? No, not that shit, leave my PC alone, oh God damn you, mailman! I will never mess around with the mailman again. Oh my God, this hurts so much. So it's now time to decide to set things in place, and for this matter I've picked up my old Nikon FM that I bought a few years ago to an American living in Portugal called Robert, and I paid for her with a 50mm nikkor 1.4 around €100. The current setup that I had on this camera was with the kit lens, the 50mm f2. That was probably the standard when you would buy a camera in the late 70s, early 80s. And don't get this lens wrong, this is actually very sharp at f2, and it's a very sharp overall lens with excellent results. If there is one thing I've learned with photography is that cheap is actually not a synonym of awfulness. Cheap sometimes can be a really nice way to be economically friendly to you while delivering results. Take a look at, for instance, the Fomapan 100. It's cheap and it's good. Now the problem with modern day zoom lenses is that they're very good at each focal range. So they're very good at 24, they're very good at 25, at 30, 35, 50, 70. The problem of being very good is that they're excellent at nothing. But going back to the subject at hand, which is to do a review on this lens, there is one thing I don't like on the Nikon FM. And the thing is, it's that little red dot over there. It just doesn't give me enough information. It has a neutral, a plus and a minus, and that's the only information that you get. Sometimes I like to underexpose the image, and I like to use the f-stops for this. So I would be better off with a much larger scale rather than just, neutral minus plus. And it's now time to load the camera with Fomapan 100 and put everything in the bag. But all talk and no images make Johnny a dull photographer. So it's time to head out and try the camera, but before night comes. And so now I present you Totico. Totico is the brother of Pantera, and they were both rescued at the same time. The owner used to breed between them. These two are brothers from the same litter. Totico very often is my model because it's very easy and very photogenic to photograph him. He has been living with me for more than a year now, and his life completely changed from one day to the other when he arrived at my doorstep. Now, one of the things I originally encountered was this magnanimous rattle on the focusing ring. This noise, looking like a bad ball bearing on the wheel of a car, is actually very annoying. This especially annoying because it doesn't occur on the same spot, making fast focusing somewhat fiddly-diddly. I guess this shows to be a Series E lens right from the start. The push-pull mechanism also works somewhat illogically, because given this as an example on a similar lens, the 43-86 is at 43 when close to you and at 86 when further apart. This 36-72 is the contrary. When close to you it's at 72, and when you push it away it's at 36. So my initial shots were met with some incredulity, if this word exists in English, because I had the notion that the image coming out of the viewing screen was not actually 36, as it was too narrow of a view. Anyway, the lens feels well built, and albeit made of plastic, it's a good quality plastic. Nonetheless, there is a pleasant heftiness to it, and it makes the experience of using it quite nice. And although I am an experienced Nikon shooter, I decided for this test run not to go for f/22 shots, as one generally never shoots at those stops. I did do my shots at f3.5 all the way to mostly f11 and occasionally f16, because I know that several photographers still use the Sony 16 rule. The film used was Fomapan 100 for several reasons, which I'll now nominate. 1. It's present basically throughout the globe. Second, being rated at ASA 100, it's mainly dedicated to daylight scenarios. Third, it's cheap and it's good. Fourth, one can easily develop it with Rodinal D76, ID11, or any other developer. 5. It delivers, well, unless you mess things up very badly, a pleasant, low-grain image. Now, optically speaking, and thinking away from the zoom functioning in a weird manner, there is nothing good, or in fact, there is nothing bad that could cause this lens to stand out. In simple terms, it just doesn't stand out, and it's quite average at what it is. This lens feels like any other lens made by Nikon during the end of the 60s, all 70s, and the majority of the 80s, where TV shows like Alf or Dallas were still around. Nikon sent this lens out to budget amateurs, students, and, on what is today somewhat controversial, women. And this lens was considered to be a cheap carry-on lens for the Nikon EM, a camera designed with women in mind. Nonetheless, the camera handles ghosting pretty well, but generally, and with special detail at the corners, is unable to keep lines straight in order to keep a building more or less in acceptable level of distortion. Translating is to pure old English: if you want a building to be straight, put it in the middle of the frame. A quite nice feature to see on this kind of lens is the focusing distance guide marks that allow you to see how far apart your focus is. This is especially helpful when you are using zone focusing away. And if you don't know what zone focusing is, it's when you pre-decide that you are going to shoot at a predefined length, setting your lens at that distance and never to worry about focusing for the next few hours. I, for instance, quite commonly recur to this technique as most of my street photography subjects appear somewhat close to the 3 meters mark. So I set up the lens at 3 meters and I only have to think about f-stops. Zone focus generally frees the photographer for more interesting matters, like, for instance, composition. And one thing I would like to get this completely straight with you. Independently if your lens is worth 90 cents, like this one, or 9,000 euros, 90% of a good image is obtained by good composition and not by having good material. Outstanding quality material will only take you so far as your knowledge permits. It's your knowledge that gets a good image, not the material. So, can you take outstanding images with this lens? Yes, of course you can take, as long as you realize the lens limitations and think like an 18th or 19th century photographer would do, which is, there are limitations, I need to go around them. You, as an artist, should never allow that the hardware impedes or restrains your creativity. So, one thing that I'd like to say to you is that actually the lens has good things and also has really bad things. The good things are that she actually does cover 35. Well, being 36, a difference in 1 millimeter does not change that much. Covers 50 and reaches 70 millimeters, which are 3 focal lengths that are really welcome and really nice to have. The bad side of this is that the lens is extremely soft at any given focal length, and that even at f11, f16 she is still very soft. I don't mind. I really don't mind. I can see people minding this and actually saying things about this. I will give you a quick view on how soft the lens is. I'll show you how soft the lens is at f3.5 and also at f11. I look more for composition on my photos, and I also look more for a narrative on my focus rather than focus peaking and see if everything is in sharp focus. That is really not my game, and I really say to people that they really shouldn't see it like this. They should actually concentrate more on composition, and they actually should concentrate more on narrative of the image rather than to be tack sharp, because sharpness does not make a great image. A narrative and good composition does. And I will leave you now with a different image from this video. This is an image that I saw it in my mind even before going to the place itself. I had this planned for about 2 months. I actually was able to go there a few weeks before receiving this lens, this Nikon lens, and I went there with my big format camera, and I took the image with a bit of an effort because I was not expecting that the terrain was so bad, but at the end I was able to get the image that I wanted, and as such I'm going to share it with you. This to prove that you need to have a narrative to have a good image. Otherwise, sharpness alone will not cut it. You need a strong narrative behind it. And like that, I leave you with the image. Again, many thanks for watching this video until the end. I'll see you next time, and as we say in Portuguese, até à próxima.